Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. All right. Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you
All
pretty good.
right. Awesome. Okay. Well, we're going to jump in here because I know we have a really exciting topic that we
Yes,
wanted to discuss. And so, as before we get to the topic, I want you to first just briefly introduce yourself.
of course. So, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first LinkedIn Live. I've done Instagram Live plenty of times, so I'm glad to be over with all the people on LinkedIn. My name is Akira Nicholson, and I am a money coach for women entrepreneurs. Sometimes they're full time, sometimes they are part time, and I help them stop living paycheck to paycheck in 60 days. So they come to me and they learn how to manage their money, they learn how to save their money so they can achieve their financial goals. I've helped my clients go on vacations, buy their first home, build their emergency fund, save for retirement, things like that. So I'm excited to be here.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I love the introduction. So, before we get into our topic about the two skills you need, do you mind sharing your journey?
Yes, I will share my journey. It's funny, I was just talking about my journey with someone else last week. So, my journey is a little interesting. My background's in engineering. And I come from a home that was never talking about money. It was always an argument. And it always was a conversation that we never had enough money. And when I was young, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, you all are working. Like, at the time, I realized my parents were working a lot because I was staying at my grandmother's house. And I'm like, the math isn't mathing. Like, I was little and somehow I was picking up on this. Um, so when I got my degree, I was like, I'm going to be a high income earner. What degree do I need to get me there? And I learned that apparently engineers make a lot of money. I was good at math and science, and I was like, done, 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 sign me up. So I tell this all the time, and I made a podcast episode. Like, I literally went from zero to 62K, still living paycheck to paycheck with barely any expenses because I didn't know how to manage my money. And I say this all the time, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you don't manage it, you will just take the paycheck to paycheck cycle to the next income level with you.
Mhm.
So I really had to learn what in the world to do with my money, but I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed because I was like, I'm making this money. I should probably know what to do with it. Like, I'm an adult with bills. Do all adults not know what they're doing with their money, or is it just me? So I was too embarrassed to ask. And like I said, the people in my family, I didn't think that they would be able to help me because all I saw was them living paycheck to paycheck. So I really just learned how to manage money on my own. I DIY'd it. I tried budgeting apps. I tried spread. Like, I've anything out there money wise, I have tried. And so I finally came up with a way to make money easy to where you don't have to come through transactions. You don't have to like stick to a traditional budget. You don't have to restrict yourself, and you can still hit those income goals. Um, and that's how I was able to buy my first house. I was able to buy my car. I was able to like go on vacations with my husband, um, pay for our wedding, all the like normal life milestones. So that's pretty
Oh,
much my
good.
story.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing and congratulations because that is so huge. I think that especially when we specifically talk about women, right?
Hmm.
Because for a long time, there were so many things that women were not able to do, right? Women couldn't have their own bank accounts. Women couldn't buy homes. Like women couldn't, work. I mean, there were just all the things, right? Like your money wasn't even your money. So being in a place now where you can actually, open an account and, have your own money and have authority over your money is such a significant place to be in. And now I think that we were in a place where we couldn't have our own. And then we moved to a place where we have our own. And I think now we're getting to a place where now we manage it, right? Like I know that of course and you probably talk to your clients about this all the time, but like being in being in a relationship where it's like, okay, we put our money in the same pot, or do we? Or like, do we have separate accounts? Or do we have like what all of that needs to look like, right? Because the thing
Yeah.
about it is, and I know again, you probably talk to your clients about this, but like, do we have the same financial goals? And like, how do we, like, I want to pay off debt, but I'm a saver, you're a spender, or vice versa, right? So really making sure that, that we are stewards of our own income is highly important. So
Yeah,
thank
you
you for
said
sharing this.
something. You were
Yeah.
like, we can manage our money and like it's ours. And on top of that as well, we can build wealth too. And that's something that I think all women need to be doing, especially if you're a woman at six figures. There is money in there to be investing and building wealth. It's a non negotiable. So, yes, that too.
Ooh, building wealth is a non-negotiable.
Non
Okay.
negotiable.
All right. I love I love that. So do do women need to be at a certain income level in order to build wealth?
No. I started building wealth from the very beginning and I did not know what I was doing. However, if I knew what I was doing and if I wasn't scared that I had to know how to day trade or I had to know about the stock market, I would have hit 100K invested so much quicker. So you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to be at a certain income level, but you do have to start somewhere, even if that looks like $50, even if it looks like $100. It's just a matter of starting. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And for
Start
you all that's
somewhere.
making six figures, there's no excuse. No excuses.
Yes. Yes. Now, do you see that people make $100,000 or more, and that they are living paycheck to paycheck, or is
Absolutely.
it usually people who make less than 100K that are experiencing that? Or does it really even matter what your income is? You can still be waiting for that next check, whether it's 50K, 50K, 100K, 250K, right? Like, doesn't really matter where you fall in. You could still be in that cycle where you're waiting for the next check to come in and doesn't have anything to do with how much money you made.
It I see it at all income levels, and it's truly because we're focused on the earning and not enough on the managing. So I work with business owners and people who are not full-time business owners and they are making six figures and still living paycheck to paycheck. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is people that are making below a certain amount are the only people living paycheck to paycheck. And that's one of the things that keeps six figure earners living paycheck to paycheck is because they don't even realize that they are, but truly their money is just going right out the door and they're like not even picking up on it. So it doesn't matter what income level, you can be living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now that we know that, let's get into skill number one. What is the first skill that you need in order to break that cycle?
Yeah, okay. So before we jump into these skills,
Yeah.
the first thing I want to say about living paycheck to paycheck, because I feel like this definition is too lenient,
Okay.
too
Okay.
lenient.
Yes. Let's clarify. I love clarity. I'm a girl of clarity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's straighten it out.
Yes. So, what it means when I say living paycheck to paycheck is typically four things are happening. So, if any one of these four things are true, then you are living paycheck to paycheck. So, the
Okay.
first thing is your money left over after your bills is not
Mhm.
being used intentionally towards planned spending. It could be going towards saving. It could be going towards debt payoff goals, because typically at this stage, you don't really know what your expenses are. You don't really know what your numbers are. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second
Okay.
indicator that you're living paycheck to paycheck
Look, I'm
is
like, everyone, get your pens out. Get your pens and your papers.
the second indicator is that you're going into new debt each month. So this is not speaking to the
Explain. Yeah,
old debt,
explain
like
that one.
you're accruing new debt each month, meaning in between paychecks, you're needing your credit card. So you're going into new debt each month. That's indicator number two.
Okay.
Indicator number 3. This is my favorite because this is what most people miss out on. And it's something that will put you back into the paycheck to paycheck cycle is known future expenses, things like property taxes, things like car maintenance, things like Christmas gifts, back to school shopping, sets you back financially because they weren't strategically planned for. These are things that you know about but are not typically on your radar because you're just so deep in the weeds from month to month, from check to check. When they come up, it's like, oh shoot, now I gotta scramble, I gotta move some things around because I wasn't planning for them strategically. So that's number 3. And then number 4, an indicator that you're in a paycheck to paycheck cycle is you cannot make progress consistently towards your financial goals. So this means you get $5,000 in savings and then you have to take it right back out because some of those known future expenses, right? It's because some of the things that aren't necessarily emergencies, but things that come up that you now need to dip into your financial goal for. So those are the 4 things. And if you think about it, if any one of these things happen, it throws you in a cycle to where, oh shoot, now got to shift some things around. Oh shoot, now got to figure out, what I need to move around, what paycheck I need to use. And it really keeps you in that paycheck to paycheck mindset.
Ooh, you bring up so many questions now. Number two, though, I have a question.
Yes.
So, with the you're getting accruing new debt, why are people doing this?
Typically, it's because they're overspending. That happens. And they're either overspending intentionally, like they know they're overspending, or they're using their credit card with the intention to pay it off at the end of the month, but they spend too much money on it and now they can't pay it off in full each month. So now you're accruing new debt.
Oh, okay. Because the
Or
first thing
when
that
those
came to my
things,
mind, go ahead.
go ahead. Or when those things come up, you don't have the cash on hand to pay for it. So now you got to use your credit card.
Yes, because the first thing that came to my mind was you don't make enough to cover your
Yeah.
expenses every month. So, say your expenses are 5,000 and no, yeah, say your expenses are 5,000 but you bring home 4,000, right? So you are already negative $1,000 for the month, like there isn't anything. And I don't want to say that there isn't anything to save. I think that there are always places where you can look at and figure out that you're overspending. Even your home, right? Like, which is one of your bigger, your living, your home, wherever it may be, right? That is typically a bigger expense. And I think that a lot of times people are overspending in that area. Now I know it can be tricky now because the cost of living and inflation is just increased, right? So we are dealing with some of that and like rent. I just read an article last week and they were talking about like how rent has increased by X amount in certain places, and so I know that that can be tricky for other people. But outside of that, there are still two ways and two skills, I'll say, to get out of this paycheck to paycheck cycle. So now that we know the four objectives that you gave us, what is skill number one?
Okay, so skill number 1 is always going to be management. And this plays into what you were saying about if you are not bringing in enough money for your expenses. One question
Hmm.
is, do you know that? Do you realize it? And do you know where you have room to play? And if you don't have room to play, what's your goal to make more money? Because if that's truly what you need to do, then we need to make sure that's being done so you're not having to keep on accruing more debt. So the first thing is always going to be management. And I have, for entrepreneurs especially, this comes up. They're like, okay, I'll just hire a bookkeeper, I'll hire a tax person, and I'll hire this. And I'm like, no one is ever going to manage your money better than you do. No one
Yes.
should know your money better than you do. If so, they might be getting over on you. Like there should never be a circumstance where like someone knows your money better than you do. That's truly something that only you can do for yourself, and that literally helps you be able to make these decisions so you can stay out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. So when I say managing money, I mean spending. So, do you know the things that you love? Or are you overspending on things that don't even matter to you? Or can you dial some of that back and just spend on the things you love and not feel restricted? That's what I mean by managing your money. Are you in a situation where you need to manage your debt instead of paying extra to pay it off because you're lacking cash? So, here's what I mean by that.
Mm.
The debt cycle happens when you feel really bad about your debt, right? Like I know a lot of people have a lot of shame around their debt. That shame around your debt makes you feel like you need to pay it off so the shame will go away, right? So you take your extra money and you put it towards your debt. Well, now that puts you in a situation where when something does come up, kind of what I talked about, and the third reason you're living paycheck to paycheck, you now have to use your credit card again. And now you feel crappy because you just made an extra payment on it. And then you had to, and so like literally the shame cycle literally just continues. So when I say
Yeah.
manage, are you able to manage your debt to where you can pay what you're obligated to pay and not missing payments? And able to keep some of that cash so you can save up and build up to where you don't have to use your credit card anymore.
Okay.
Another thing for managing money, are you able to save money, right? Because truly saving is, and this goes into the second reason, but saving is really what's going to help you stay out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. So those are some of the things that I mean by money management. And I wanted to make sure to talk about debt inside of there too.
Okay, great. If you all have questions for Akira, please drop them in the chat and we will answer those as we go along. Okay. All right. Skill number two.
Saving. I kind of alluded to it. So here's the thing about saving, and I want to talk about this because I know for a lot of people, when you are saving and you're starting from scratch, so you're saving and you don't have anything saved yet, it could feel defeating because when you get a little bit of money, it's like you need to take it out for something else. That's what it's for, as long as you have stabilized your expenses, which goes back to number one, the management part. So in the money
Yeah.
management, you're able to stabilize your expenses so that you're not having this lifestyle creep, so that your expenses aren't doing this every single month and you don't have no idea what your expenses actually are. When you're saving money and something comes up next month or the month after that and you need to go in and pull the savings for it, that's totally fine. Like that's what it's there for. I think we have this idea that like we have to hold on to our savings so tight and we have to hoard it and we can't use it, when really that mindset is just messing us up and putting us in more anxiety about some of these irregular expenses that will come up. Like you cannot beat irregular expenses. The best thing you could do is save for them and be prepared for them with cash.
Okay. So you mentioned something. Can we talk about, I think you called it lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
Can you talk
Yes.
about that more?
So lifestyle creep happens typically when someone earns more money and they spend more money. So at the same rate they're earning is the same rate they're spending. And that's how people at high income levels are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
And what I say about this is more money itself, like literally just making more money, doesn't inherently change anything about your money situation. It does nothing. All it does is give you more money to do what you were already doing. So if
Mm.
you are already spending a lot of money, you'll get more money and you'll spend more. If you were saving a lot of money, you'll get more money and you'll save more. If you were accruing a lot of debt, you'll get more money and you'll accrue more debt. Like it literally just amplifies what you're already doing. And so when it comes to lifestyle creep, if you haven't done the management portion, what will happen is lifestyle creep means the amount it costs to support your lifestyle increases.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it does. Okay. I'm glad you cleared that up. Can we talk about And I don't know where this falls into your process, but I know
Mhm,
it probably falls in there somewhere,
mhm.
is mindset. I know it's not the first skill that we talked about, we talked about management, but where does mindset fall in here? I know it falls in somewhere.
Mindset falls all throughout. So,
Yes.
one of the first things that typically comes up when I talk to clients is usually debt. Debt shame is a big one, a big
Yeah.
mindset thing impacting their finances. There's also a lot of shame that they feel like they should be further along than where they actually are financially. So that's
Hmm.
coming up in their mindset, right? So a lot of people, when they come to me, they're already struggling with mindset. So we catch that just from the sales call. And I already have an indicator of where they need help with the mindset so that they can manage their money, so that they can save. So, truly, mindset is something that shows up all throughout the process. And the
Okay.
reason why, when I talked about saving, I was like, I know it can be discouraging when you save and then you have to pull money out for something,
Yeah.
an expense that's coming up in the future, because I have clients where their mindset get so caught up on I just put the money in savings. I don't want to take it out. Like they feel defeated. And that's literally just mindset work. So the shift is, of course, you have to take that's what you put it there for. Like it's a mindset strategy to know that you will always save. Like I'll always be saving. I'll never stop. It's like it's just a
Okay.
mindset shift. Like it's never somewhere where you just like, oh, I'm done now. Like investing, oh, I'm done now. It's truly a mindset shift because these habits you build are something that you will continue to do over time.
Okay. So that leads me into another question.
Mhm.
So, working with you, mindset is throughout the entire process. What does it look like to work with you?
Yeah. So typically, when my clients first come in, the very first thing we do is get those expenses stabilized. Because, like I said, that's where the money management is. That's where you can see how much you can save. That's where you see how much you should be paying towards your debt, if you should be paying on top of those minimums or what you're obligated to pay. And so that's the very first thing we do, right? And then one thing I love about this process and my clients love is that 30-minute money routine, 30-minute monthly routine. That's all you need to do to manage your money effectively. You do not have to comb through transactions. You do not need to use budgeting apps or spreadsheets. And the way I do this in 60 days with my clients is I help them build a money system with boundaries in place so they are never late on a bill payment. They're making sure all their credit cards are paid on time because that happens a lot. You get into paying extra on those credit cards and you actually miss your bill cycle and then you're late on the payment and now that impacts your credit. That's the whole thing.
Yep.
So you're never late on a bill payment. You always know, like 3 months ongoing, what's coming up, what do I got coming up, what I need to be saving. Like it's an ongoing thing. And so when you have your money routine, instead of spending an hour, 2 hours combing through transactions, you're thinking about 2, 3 months ahead. And now you can do the things you need to do throughout the whole month without tracking, without making sure that this money is here, this money is there. We get it all done in those 30 minutes. So that's truly what the first 60 days looks like. And then for the remainder of our time together, we can work towards your specific money goal, whether that's saving, whether that's paying off debt. And I help you customize a tailored plan to that specific thing based on your situation. So some of my clients, they're like, "Oh, I should have been paying this credit card first." I'm like, "No. This is a credit card that you need to pay first based on this debt payoff plan so you can
Okay.
make sure that you're still able to save while you're doing it." So I'm really able to like go deep, deep, deep into their like next money goal.
Okay. Okay. So, how long is your program?
Yeah, so my program is 6 months long. Like I said, the
Okay.
first 60 days is getting them out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. And then the next 4 months is specifically working towards your next money goal. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. They find that they actually start making more money because they know how much money they need to make and they know how much money they need towards their next money goal. Some people aren't hitting their money goals because they're just not specific enough.
Yeah,
So I
I
find that,
agree.
yeah.
I agree. Okay. So let everyone know how they can work with you.
Yes, so if you follow me on LinkedIn, you can just send me a DM on here. I'm happy to chat about any questions you have. In the feature section of my profile, you can find a way to book a call with me. You can find my podcast, Women Talk Money. I have really popular episodes. Like if you want to hear about the money routine, I have an episode going all into detail on that. And you can check out my website. All those things are in the featured section of my LinkedIn profile.
All right. And let's just give your website. What's your website?
Acura Nicholson. So my name, Aqura Nicholson.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I am glad that we were able to have this conversation because when we talked about, we were
Yeah.
like, hey, you know what? Let's do a live together. And you're like, okay, I got a few topics. And when
Mhm.
you mentioned the two skills, I was like, that's it. That's our
Yeah.
topic. That's the one we're gonna go with. So
Yeah.
I'm
And before
so
I
glad.
leave,
Yeah,
before
yeah.
I leave, I also want to say I know that you're a career coach and you work a lot and have a lot of followers who are looking for a next job or maybe a promotion or maybe a career pivot. These things that I talked about today are so important for you to do now. Do not wait until your next opportunity to do this. You will be so much further ahead. You will literally be able to take that promotion and put it right in the bank when you really
Agreed.
do
Oh
those
yeah,
things
yeah.
now.
I completely agree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that a lot of times people do say, like, a lot of my clients are
Yeah.
like, I want to make more money, and sometimes I'll ask them, like, well, why do you want to make more money? I know we all want to, and even when
Yeah.
we're having these negotiation conversations, or when we're talking about getting up for a promotion, and the number one thing for people is when they say money, I'm like, well, why, right? Like, we have to know what our why is, because just making more money doesn't solve the problem that you're having. And so I'm always having that conversation with people. I'm like, yes, if you're having a money problem, making more money is not going to solve your money problem. That I
Mhm.
promise you it will not. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Anything else do you want to add before we wrap up?
That's all I think I want to say. Like, I just want to tell people because I was so embarrassed about my money because I didn't know like what to do with my money. Like, truly send me a DM. Like, don't feel ashamed about if you just need to just like like just send me a DM. I have a link to my podcast where you can submit questions anonymously. Like, if you don't want your identity known, like please
Yeah.
don't let that hold you back from your money goals and getting out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle.
Yeah, yeah. I think money is the conversation. Um, and I know we talk about like salary transparency, but like
Mm-hmm.
having a transparent conversation about money is something that we need to do, because our conversations don't start with our salaries. Like salary transparency is not where the conversation starts. It's where I know we want everyone to be transparent, and we want everyone to provide salaries on LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever it is that you look for your new roles. But it's like, how transparent are you about your current money and your management, or the lack thereof of your current money management, or your current savings? How transparent are you with those conversations? And so
Yeah.
I think that we have to start being more comfortable. People like, oh, well, I'm asking people about, in the same organization, how much money they make. And I found out that such and such made 10, 15, 20% more than I do. But are you having those conversations, those honest conversations with yourself? The conversation you have with yourself about money is the most important conversation you're going to have with anyone, including your spouse, when it comes to money. Because if you're not having a transparent conversation with you, you're not having a transparent conversation with your significant other. There is no way you cannot have that conversation when they don't even know that you are spending, $500 or whatever it is extra a month on credit card debt, because you haven't been transparent and said, you know what, I'm mismanaging my money. I need support. I need to figure this out. And your significant other may or may not be, more than likely they're not the person to really say, hey, let's sit down and manage this together, because um, that can be overwhelming for one person to really decide to say, I'm going to be the one to manage both of our money,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, but I don't know. You probably have a whole nother take
Yeah,
on that
I
part.
have a podcast episode called How to Come Clean to My Spouse About Debt, I think is what it's titled. So go listen to that episode if you find
Yeah.
yourself in that situation. And it also talks about how to have these conversations with your spouse so that both of you are ready to have a conversation and it doesn't end up in an argument. Because that's
Yes.
another thing
Yes.
that happens.
Yes.
Some real quick, someone said in the chat, don't forget about car insurance and home insurance. Those are fixed costs that is hard to reduce with this current inflation and economic situation. So one thing, I don't know if people know about this, but if you bank with a credit union, I have an insurance agent through my credit union, and every
Mm-hmm.
year I'm like, hey, can you shop insurance again? I just sent her an email, and she always
Yep.
like hooks me up with the cheapest insurance. So that's something um, that you can do. Another thing I want to say about the economy,
It's
this
funny. I'm
might be
not seeing the comments.
spicy, this might be like a hot take or not, I don't know. When you're not in the paycheck to paycheck cycle, you should build security and safety no matter what the economy looks like.
Ooh, I
Because here's the
I
thing, the
100%
economy
agree. Yeah.
is going to fluctuate no matter what. It's nothing that we can do about that. It's done it for years and years and years. What we
Yes.
can do is be prepared for the next time it happens because there will
Yeah.
be a next time. So that's what
Yeah.
I'll say about the economy because I know that is something that's really important to people. That's something that brings a lot of fear. And again, it goes back to mindset. But ultimately, we should be building safety and security around ourselves. So no matter what the economy looks like, we can survive any economy.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you.
conversation as always. I love when we get together and have chats. So, again, one more time, website and podcast.
Women Talk Money is the name of my podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And then my website is AkuraNicholson.com, AkuraNicolson.
All right. All right. You all, thank you so much for joining. And I will catch you all next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right,
Thanks.
everyone. Take care. Bye.